USAID, the United States Agency for International Development, has been a cornerstone of American foreign policy since its establishment by President John F. Kennedy in 1961. With a mission to save lives, reduce poverty, strengthen democratic governance, and help people progress beyond assistance, USAID operates in over 100 countries worldwide. The agency's budget, a testament to its vast scope, hovers around $42 billion, making it a significant player in global development. USAID's work in Afghanistan, a country ravaged by decades of conflict, has been particularly noteworthy. The agency has poured billions of dollars into development projects aimed at improving the lives of ordinary Afghans. These projects range from infrastructure development and agricultural support to education and healthcare initiatives. A significant portion of USAID's funding has been directed towards empowering women and girls, a demographic disproportionately affected by conflict and instability. USAID's efforts in Afghanistan have not been without their challenges. The country's complex political landscape, coupled with security concerns and logistical hurdles, has made it difficult to ensure aid reaches its intended beneficiaries. Corruption, a persistent problem in Afghanistan, has also cast a shadow over aid effectiveness. Despite these challenges, USAID remains a critical source of support for millions of Afghans struggling to rebuild their lives. The agency's commitment to Afghanistan is evident in its continued funding, even after the Taliban's takeover. USAID's dedication to the Afghan people, particularly women and girls, underscores its belief in a brighter future for the war-torn nation. USAID remains hopeful that its assistance will contribute to a more stable, prosperous, and equitable Afghanistan. USAID's funding allocation in Afghanistan reveals a stark contrast, highlighting the complex interplay of development goals and political realities. On one hand, the agency has committed $3 billion towards broader development initiatives, encompassing a wide range of sectors crucial for long-term stability and growth. These initiatives include bolstering education, particularly for girls, with the establishment of secret schools and training programs for female journalists. These efforts reflect USAID's recognition of women's empowerment as a cornerstone of a thriving society. On the other hand, USAID has allocated $15 million specifically for condom distribution in Afghanistan. This seemingly modest sum, dwarfed by the billions earmarked for development, has sparked controversy and raised questions about USAID's priorities in a country grappling with fundamental challenges. Critics argue that the allocation of funds towards family planning initiatives, while important, pales in comparison to the pressing needs of a nation struggling with poverty, hunger, and displacement. The disparity in funding allocation underscores the complexities of aid distribution in conflict-ridden nations. While USAID's commitment to women's health and reproductive rights is commendable, the stark contrast in funding raises concerns about whether the agency is adequately addressing the immediate needs of the Afghan people. The allocation of $15 million for condoms, while a fraction of the overall aid budget, symbolizes the challenges of balancing diverse development objectives in a volatile environment. The debate surrounding USAID's funding priorities in Afghanistan highlights the need for a nuanced understanding of the country's multifaceted challenges. While family planning initiatives are undoubtedly important, critics argue that prioritizing them over more pressing needs, such as food security and access to basic healthcare, raises concerns about USAID's strategic vision for Afghanistan. The agency's funding choices reflect the difficult balancing act between addressing immediate humanitarian needs and investing in long-term development goals. The Taliban's return to power in Afghanistan has plunged the country into a humanitarian crisis of immense proportions. The once hopeful aspirations for a democratic and prosperous Afghanistan have been replaced by a climate of fear and uncertainty. The Taliban's ideology, rooted in a strict interpretation of Islamic law, has led to severe restrictions on women's rights, including bans on education, employment, and even their freedom of movement. The Afghan economy, already fragile after decades of conflict, has been crippled by the Taliban takeover. International sanctions, coupled with the suspension of foreign aid, have sent the Afghani currency plummeting, leading to hyperinflation and widespread poverty. The United Nations estimates that over 23 million Afghans, more than half the population, face acute hunger, with nearly 9 million on the brink of famine. The healthcare system, already weak, is on the verge of collapse, leaving millions without access to basic medical care. The humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan is particularly dire for women and children. The Taliban's regressive policies have stripped women of their hard-won rights, confining them to their homes and denying them access to education and employment opportunities. Girls have been forced out of schools, their dreams of a brighter future shattered. The situation is particularly alarming for female-headed households, which are disproportionately represented among the poorest and most vulnerable segments of Afghan society. The international community has responded to the crisis in Afghanistan with pledges of humanitarian aid. However, delivering aid effectively remains a challenge due to the Taliban's control over access and distribution channels. The international community faces the daunting task of providing life-saving assistance to millions of Afghans while navigating the complex political landscape and ensuring that aid does not inadvertently bolster the Taliban regime. The issue of aid in Afghanistan is further complicated by allegations that some of it, albeit indirectly, ends up in the hands of the Taliban. Estimates suggest that the Taliban may be receiving as much as $40 million per week indirectly through various channels. This raises serious concerns about the effectiveness and transparency of aid distribution in a country where the ruling regime is itself accused of human rights abuses and suppression of basic freedoms. The Taliban's control of key institutions, including the central bank, makes it exceedingly difficult to prevent some level of aid from flowing into their coffers. This reality has sparked a heated debate about the ethics of providing aid to Afghanistan under the current circumstances. Critics argue that by channeling funds through government-controlled systems, the international community is inadvertently legitimizing and strengthening the Taliban regime. The controversy surrounding aid in Afghanistan highlights the inherent complexities of humanitarian intervention in conflict zones. Balancing the imperative to provide life-saving assistance to vulnerable populations with the need to avoid inadvertently bolstering oppressive regimes is a delicate balancing act. The situation in Afghanistan underscores the need for innovative approaches to aid delivery that prioritize transparency, accountability, and the empowerment of local communities. The debate over aid in Afghanistan is not merely an academic exercise. It has real-world consequences for millions of Afghans who depend on international assistance for survival. Finding a way to deliver aid effectively while minimizing the risk of it falling into the wrong hands is crucial for alleviating the suffering of the Afghan people and fostering a more stable and prosperous future for the war-torn nation.